on comics on top of books, which are comics. I'm Mike.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Vincent.
So no Hull segment this week because we did a show all that on Wednesday. So we got a bunch of books to go into, and we're going to open it up. Well, Vince is going to open up with our retro book, which is Superior Spider-Man Team Up number 8.
Yes, Superior Spider-Man Team Up number 8. Christopher Yost and Will Sliney. Both, I would say, super underrated creators on Spider-Man related books. Yost wrote all of Scarlet Spider, other spin-off stuff like this. Will Sliney did a bunch of Spider-Man 2099 with Peter David, and then I think he did some of the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider book. So we start with a few pages of essentially recap, just catching us up with Superior Spider-Man Spock's status quo, the Superior 6 arc, which was in this title, and he's kind of doubting himself, and he's thinking of turning himself into the Avengers. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he sees Namor getting chased by Wakandan agents, and debating it for a little bit, he intervenes, and then he gets filled in by Namor with some exposition on Avengers versus X-Men and the subsequent ongoing war between Atlantis and Wakanda. And Namor laughs at Spock, but then gives him a pep talk like anti-hero style, which Spock responds by sucker punching him and telling him to get out of New York. And at the end of the story, learning from Namor, Superior Spider-Man has his overflowing confidence back, and he's not questioning his superiority anymore. And this is actually the last issue of Christopher Yost's run, which goes, it's not like it's only 8 issues, it goes back further because the title Avenging Spider-Man, which had this similar kind of setup where it's basically a Marvel team-up series, about halfway through that book, Otto became Spider-Man and took over all the Spider-Man books, and they just didn't at some point for sales or an overall relaunch or whatever, they finally relaunched it and made it Superior Team Up rather than Avenging Spider-Man. But Yost has like a 20+ issue run on just essentially Superior Spider-Man. And it's interesting because in Superior Spider-Man, many Spider-Man fans, those who read it, would argue it's not a Peter Parker story, but it's a Spider-Man story. And the ultimate, the entirety of Superior Spider-Man, for the most part, is a beginning to end story arc. Multiple arcs along the way, but an arc basically, delving into Otto's character and ultimately showing that he realizes that Peter is the Superior Spider-Man. It's an ironic title in a way, and eventually culminates, in Peter becoming the one true Spider-Man, which is, complicated when you have Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and Silk and everyone else running around. But whatever, that's sort of at least the purpose of Superior Spider-Man. You might not think that it was executed, but on the other hand, like this title, which was essentially the secondary title, it was just like, here's Superior Spider-Man just being a total dick with some random character. And if you didn't like the premise or the character of Superior Spider-Man in the main book, probably don't like this stuff that much. But if you like this momentary period of a dickhole Spider-Man, I think this book sometimes was way better than the main series by Dan Slott. So that was me telling you what happens in the book, rambling on the backstory. What do you guys think of Superior Spider-Man Team Up number 8?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's funny because about a year ago, I bought the Superior Spider-Man Complete Collection Volume 1, so I still haven't read that yet. But I mean, this is kind of piqued my interest a little bit, so we'll see how it goes.
There is it's called a Superior Spider-Man Companion or something, which they released, which is essentially a complete collection of this run.
Okay.
So something to keep in mind if you end up enjoying Superior.
I like Superior Spider-Man, so I dreaded reading this. But putting my bias aside, I like Chris Yost, and he writes a damn good comic book. And this was fine. Like, this was pretty much on par Chris Yost.
Yeah, the art's pretty good. The cover by Paulo Rivera is really, really cool. But like, and I really love the way he represents Namor on that cover. But like,
Quite an octopus in this issue, though.
yeah, the cover does not represent what happens in the issue. So that's that. We will reveal the next retro book at the end of the show, and the biggest book of the week, biggest book for a while. Definitely not sold over 1 million copies, but we will see. Is Marvel Comics 1000. This is 80 whopping pages. Each one is attached to a year. Marvel celebrating their 80th anniversary, as we've seen in some other one-shots we've read. And each page has its own creative team. Though Al Ewing is running the show, and there's a meta arc that goes throughout. And he writes probably maybe more than a tenth of them. He has to write more than 8 pages.
I feel like by the end of it, he wrote maybe like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
Possibly more. I didn't take the time to count, but I do want to say this really shouldn't be called Marvel Comics 1000. They're just piggybacking on the fact that DC has 2, so they want 1. This really should have just been called the 80th anniversary special.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, they just really cheated on the numbering. Let me try and quickly pull up what the actual numbering should be. But it starts in 39 with the creation of the Human Torch, which this is also interesting to compare to History of the Marvel Universe, because there are some parallels, but then this book doesn't actually take that structure.
No.
But we do start in 39, which follows the pattern of the cover of Marvel Comics #1 and the story in Marvel's #0 and stuff like that. Obviously, Marvel Universe stuff, and even within this issue is reference that takes place way before 39. And you get little like bubble annotations on each page for like, why the hell does this story have any relevance to this year? And it's strange because some stories are set in their assigned year, while others are in the present or just who knows when.
Completely like one-offs.
It's not always clear, and also some of the like annotation reasonings are like a big fucking stretch.
And then, but some of the things that are just like, they're just so arbitrary. Like, you could have picked something better. Like, I think, what is it, like 1991 or something? Eric Larson becomes the ongoing artist on Amazing Spider-Man. Was that the most notable thing you really wanted to select for 1992?
It's not even Amazing Spider-Man. He becomes a writer and artist on Adjective List, I believe. I think that's the annotation. So Marvel Mystery Comics ended at 92, but then was retitled Marvel Tales, the first volume of Marvel Tales, and got to 159. But that's still way off of 1000. But the overarching plot by Al Ewing is about a black mask, which is it was forged as part connected to the cosmic entity Eternity, and the mask is passed along through time, and it makes you like equally as strong as your opponent or something. And also there's these like recurring 3 X's, which are always trying to hunt it down. And the central character that Ewing uses is Jimmy Woo. And so you get some Agents of Atlas stuff, and there's other things. Also, there's another recurring thing, mostly not in the Ewing stuff, and totally arbitrarily, some of the stories do these confession interview type things, like a reality show. And actually, I think it does connect around in the very end. But some of them are strange because Spider-Man's, he has his mask off. So I don't know what's happening there. This whole thing's a gimmick. I think it's like a major appeal on this is seeing a lot of the creators reconnect with some of the characters that they had notable runs on. and there's literally like 20 of those. You have the Imminence back on Hellcat, Gillen on Loki, Priest on Black Panther, DeConnick on Captain Marvel, Rosenberg currently writing The Punisher, George Perez on White Tiger, DeFalco and Friends on Thor, Liefeld on X-Force, Eric Larson on Spider-Man, Jason Aaron on Punisher and Wolverine, Gail Simone on Deadpool, Joe Quesada on Daredevil, and let's flip some of these off. Mike, what was your reaction to Joe Quesada's Daredevil?
It's like, holy shit, it looks so much better than Daredevil Father.
It looks pretty good, but it wasn't very noteworthy to me. And there's a weird thing where like it's kind of implied that he's not familiar with his own code name, so it must be set in the past. But he's already wearing red. I didn't understand that.
There's also like someone filming him on a rooftop, so
Yeah, it's one of those interview things. But he's like Daredevil. I don't know why they call me that.
he also says that he's afraid all the time. So I was like, that's not true.
Well, I feel like that's the thing that they do sometimes. You know, you got to take the hero's tagline literally sometimes and tell a dumb story. Peter David does a Rick Jones story. Claremont and LaRocca basically just do an X-Men splash page. Some of them are like that. Some of these are literally just splash pages that are stories.
There's like 3 X-Men splash pages that are just like the history of the X-Men. I was like, that's really lazy.
Let's talk about weird annotations. Kia Asamiya does a splash page of the X-Men, and the annotation is Kia Asamiya, or it's like manga artist Kia Asamiya becomes the artist on Uncanny X-Men. That's part of the Chuck Austin run, and he did like 4 or 5 issues, and I guess it was sort of a big deal at the time because Marvel was inching towards using more and more manga influenced artists, and this guy's just straight up like manga artist.
I thought it was weird that we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar co-writing a story with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage.
Yeah, though I thought his story was pretty decent.
Yeah, I liked it. I was just like, it's just so odd to see that name writing a comic book.
That's because Bendis is not with Marvel. He probably would have written that.
Yeah,
well, there's multiple. There's like 3 Jessica Jones stories. So
Tom Taylor.
I like Tom Taylor's a lot, actually.
He was all right. Alan Heinberg and Jim Chung on Young Avengers.
That one might be my favorite because it's literally like, okay, here's the last time you're going to see Patriot unless we ever get the rights back.
David Walker on Luke Cage, Greg Pak on Hulk, and essentially like his version of the Hulk family Gamma Corps.
Yeah.
And J. Scott Campbell on Mary Jane, because of course he did all those covers.
Yeah, I like the fact that he was like, she was like, I don't actually sit like this from that spoofing that famous cover.
It's very meta because he also like jokes about One More Day, but then it's strange. He's joking on. In fact, there are like 3 pages in here that like joke on Joe Quesada. It's kind of weird.
I think there could have been some better spread out because at some points we have like 3 Spider-Man stories in a row, and I was like, all right, we have other characters to play with here.
Yeah, and then the final like major like creator character reunion that I want to point out is Dan Slott and Marcus Martin on Spidey, as you just said, and I liked their story.
Yeah, it was okay.
I mean, it's hard for a Marcos Martin story to really flop, especially when Dan Slott has to condense it to 1 page, so he doesn't have much room to screw up.
I thought a lot of Spider-Man stuff had to deal with Otto, which I was also kind of like, we have other villains we can use.
I thought it was very strange. So there are a few big deal inclusions here, and we'll go through those now. I thought it was very strange that the Conan story was written by Ralph Macchio rather than Jason Aaron currently writing the book, or Roy Thomas, who is still alive, still writes things, and is like the most signature Conan writer ever. In fact, I think Thomas does something in here. I think he does one of the Invaders pages or something.
Yeah.
And then Charles Soule does a Darth Vader page. Oh well, first of all, the Conan thing makes way more sense than the other ones that I'm going to get to because
Well,
Conan is like
speaking of Charles Soule, he did a Silver Surfer one with Steve McNiven doing art modeled after Mobius, and that was pretty cool looking.
yeah, he's like just barely not close enough where you can completely tell he's trying to do Mobius, but it's not quite there. But it still
I
looks
think it looked really cool though.
yeah, it still looks great. But Conan has like kind of sort of always been canon to Star Wars. He's just super in the past and doesn't hang out with characters because Kulan Goth or Gath, however you pronounce it, as well as Shuma Gorath are straight up Conan characters. Those are Robert E. Howard created characters, but we know them in the modern Marvel universe as like hanging out with Doctor Strange, and there's like Kulan Goth fights the X-Men early in Claremont's run and stuff like that. So Conan, that's the one that is most excusable to me. Then Charles Soule does a Darth Vader page, which I was really worried about some of these pages, but the Vader page is just like, here's a Vader page. There's no remote suggestion of like shared continuity. There's no like weird meta jokes. It didn't make me remotely annoyed. But also like one page of Vader, you can't do that much. It wasn't impressive to me.
It wasn't good. I liked the Mark Waid and Cassidy Captain America page. I liked the Young Avengers page, and I liked Donny Cates' Spider-Man page. Those were kind of the ones that stuck with me.
His was all right. Actually, that Kate's Spider-Man kind of made me think about his voice for Spider-Man. I don't think I liked it as much as you. Then there's a Miracle Man page by Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham, which maybe you should actually finish the Miracle Man comic you're supposed to make. But I didn't understand the message of this story at all.
No, I didn't. I did want to talk with you about that. I was like, this one was odd.
It's a very mixed message because in one like dialogue balloon, it seems like he's calling out like event comics, but like you're essentially in an event comic, and what editor allowed them to sneak by this page totally trashing event comics when that's Marvel's entire strategy this year? And there's also one or two other things said in it. It's very strange. Mike Allred draws a naked Doctor Strange. That's fun.
I like that page where he's wrestling with his cloak, and he takes it to a laundromat because I guess the Sanctum Sanctorum doesn't have a washing machine.
Yeah. Christopher Priest dragged it out and did another sequel to Spider-Man versus Wolverine, which is strange. There's a page of freaking Night Raven. It's very strange because it's mostly a prose page with one black and white illustration by Alan Davis, but Night Raven, that's like an obscure Marvel UK thing.
There's a really nice in memoriam page.
Yeah. And it uses the art from Death of Captain Marvel.
Right.
You caught the Batman cameo, right? I think it's on.
Yeah, they got the Batman cameo in the Deadpool story.
Yeah. And also, I think it might be in the Batman cameo one or another one. Deadpool has way too many stories in this as well.
He only has 3.
Yeah, but 3 out of 80, that's huge, but also not a big surprise. But
I thought that both times there's Doom stories, both times the message is that he's alone, and I was like, we saw that 30 pages ago.
Yeah, I was very unimpressed by the Doom stories. But the one Deadpool page, he's like it's all in good fun, but he's like criticizing the 9-panel grid and saying how like you can't fit enough action in it. And I'm like, okay, so you're shitty at using the 9-panel grid.
Yeah.
It's like someone call up Jack Kirby or Dave Gibbons and just shit on this.
Or, I mean, to shoehorn his name in everywhere, but like, what guy just won a bunch of Eisners that's known for using the 9-panel grid?
Yeah, but even I mean, there's a handful of guys that are amazing at using it. And
I will say I liked the overarching stories with Al Ewing with the Masked Raider commencing with, I guess, culminating with his return, and we'll find out who the new one is in 2020. And then the last page is that Michael Korvac is back online.
But I don't know what any of that's for, because there's 1001 coming out soon. So I don't know if that's going to follow up on this stuff, or if there's going to be a dedicated event or two events, because that's two essentially separate threads.
Well, we know that Mike Deodato is definitely not drawing the Masked Raider stuff, as he's leaving Marvel for creator-owned ventures.
JMS regrets sins past.
Yeah, everyone does. So that's not a big surprise.
But again, he doesn't say it explicitly, but that's another point where that was a Gemis and Quesada thing, and Quesada is still in charge of the company. So it's weird that they would let that through. He's not explicitly referencing though. But the Mary Jane story by Jerry Conway is so damn close to being one of my favorites.
It's good.
But Greg Land just really pulls it down just enough for me where it's not in that tier.
Yeah.
But the writing and the character implications are really, really worthwhile.
I'd say, I mentioned this to you guys, if I were to rank all of the 1,000 issues that's come out recently, I'd put this in the middle between Action and Detective. We were not really thrilled with Detective Comics 1000. I thought that was a big letdown for me. Action 1000 was great. I think that's still the best for me. And this is just like in the middle. Like, this was fine. Like, most of this stuff to me is just like I said, because it is so one-off, it's not really memorable. It's fun to see old creative teams back for one more page, but like there's also a lot of this that I don't like, with like some of the inclusions are just like making me scratch my head, that kind of drag it down. Like every single shoehorned like movie event that takes up a year for one of the 80 years. I was like, really, you could have done something better there.
One is Stan Lee appeared as the Watcher in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
I think also, yeah. So there's one story which is like a Miles Morales prose story with him in the background, clearly with the Into the Spider-Verse suit. That was one of the stories for me. I mean, mostly because I glossed.
Captain America and Thing story was cool though.
Well,
it's just the Thing, but he draws Captain America in it, and Steve Root's cap looks great.
So I don't know if you necessarily have a pick off the top of your head, but for me, the absolute worst page in the entire thing was the Damage Control story. It just had pretty bad art. The writing was pretty bad, and it was a total MCU inspired pull, because it's the Vulture stealing some like Stark or some tech.
My least favorite one might actually be the America Chavez story, because it's all about Miss America, and she appears for one panel.
I don't even know that she does.
I think it's trying to say that the woman who took her in and raised her when she crossed dimensions was Miss America.
No,
but
no, that's not the case.
Oh, so I hate it more now.
It's just they just have the same code name.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's like the second page or something.
Yeah.
Page. Or it's the first like post Ewing page. My favorites overall, I tried to pick three. Captain America by Jerry Duggan and Chris Samney. Really love that page.
Wait, which one was that? Was that the Pledge of Allegiance? No, that was.
No, it's Steve and Bucky playing in the snow.
Oh yeah, that one was really good. But there was some MCU, but that was MCU inspired though.
Just a tad.
Bucky and Cap don't meet until on an army base.
Well, I don't know they may have retconned that or something. But I like the Black Bolt story, which is a Little Nemo in Slumberland homage.
That was really cool.
And the best Spidey story for me was Meltzer and Tedesco's, where this pregnant woman is like, please, please, please tell me your name, because you just saved me. I want to name my kid after you. And he gives her Ben, and then you see, like, apparently this has happened over a dozen times. People naming their kids Ben because they think that's Spider-Man.
I didn't love that one, because that's in the wheelhouse of stuff we've seen from Meltzer.
Yeah, but I think it's fun. And then I mean, my runner-up again would be the Mary Jane story.
Yeah, I'd say the Mary Jane. I'd say the Mary Jane, the Donny Cates, and that one. None of them were bad. I liked the Pledge of Allegiance one. I liked the art by Gleason. Just the Pledge of Allegiance, I was like, well, whatever.
Dan, I believe you skimmed this for Iron Man. Did you have any reactions to the Iron Man pages?
First one with the introduction of him in 1963. Thought it was a little interesting to go with Walt Simonson for the art, and I think also the writing, if I'm not mistaken. Because I don't like he didn't really have any like run or anything with Iron Man before.
Yeah, the page looked cool though.
Yeah, I mean the art looked really cool. The one armor up in the top right kind of like is like the same type of armor that he did the sketch for, like when we were at Phillipsburg. So I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. It looks very similar to what he drew.
Classic 70s armor.
Yeah, yep. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like you said, the Doom's Quest one was, I think, really underwhelming. Kind of not really representative of what that storyline was about, to be honest. It was just a simple like, here, both these characters existed in a comic book for a second. And the 2008 one with the Iron Man 1 movie premiere, again, I thought that was kind of lazy and just like, oh, look how he changes his armor and then disappears. Like, I don't know. Not really much to write home about with those ones. But
Wait, there were 3, right?
yeah, I think there was just 3.
What was the middle one again?
It was the Doom's Quest one where like they both come out of like the portal, I guess. And then Tony goes back to sleep with, I don't know, like Bethany Cabe, I'm assuming, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was because MCU inspire, it could have been Pepper.
Yeah, I mean they're both redheads, so it's kind of hard to figure out who it was. And then
I'm choosing it to be Bethany Cabe.
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, judging by the time period, so yeah. I also read I read a Hercules one from the first miniseries, Prince of Power, and that was really cool.
Dragged on.
It dragged on, but like that's kind of how the miniseries was with that character. I forget what the robot's name was, but yeah, that kind of banter between the two of them was kind of representative of that era. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it did drag on a little bit. A lot of dialogue there.
I was gonna say the She-Hulk one also had a bit of a mixed message. I wasn't like they kind of went one direction and then were like, nope, because it was like her like complaining about being called She-Hulk, and then in the end she's like, but I'm okay with it. And it's like, also the this is the Roy Thomas story, the Hulk and
with Wolverine.
That was kind of a mess.
I don't know. I guess for me, my favorite one, just because it was fun to see the original Young Avengers back together again, probably the Young Avengers page.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just found the second Iron Man page again. So Iron Man got 3 pages, and none of them are related to any creators with any history with them. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of shitty. Like you could have definitely done one with like one of them should have been with like Nicolini and Layton, like something directly related to their run. Like
you could have got Fraction back to do 1 page, like
or Fraction.
At the very least, Salvador LaRocca, you had him on payroll to draw Iron Man.
Yeah, I feel like that was a wasted moment. But what are you gonna do?
You got Kirk Busiek to do a story, like it.
Yeah, like that should have been like the instead of putting that Iron Man, like 2008 Iron Man, like movie premiere shit that they did there. I mean, they should have done something with that page. I think that was because that's like the beginning of Fraction's run, right? Like around 2008.
Yeah, it began right as the movie came out.
So why do we have just a blank page? I don't get it.
Mike, actually, you pointing that out, did Busiek do anything here?
I think he did 1 story, but I can't remember which one.
Oh no, yeah, he did basically the Marvel romance story, but in the background it's like Agents of Atlas type stuff.
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
His was actually pretty good. But.
All right, that's enough of Marvel Comics 1000. It was good. It was worth a read.
I really enjoyed it, and I picked up the the 70s cover by Greg Smallwood with the essentially Midnight Suns / League of Monsters. Fun stuff. Moving on to Absolute Carnage #2, another huge book this week, I guess.
More fun stuff.
Eddie and Pete finally break through the cell away from Carnage. And Venom gets to flex his new wings, which Spider-Man has never seen before, and it freaks him out. And that's basically the reaction of all like old school comic fans as well. Osborn is just a Carnage now, and like I can't fully like visually tell them apart when they're writing.
Carnage has the little thing on top on his forehead.
Yeah,
Osborn doesn't. He's got like the more heavy black veins on his head and face.
and the Venom and Spidey, they're going to split up to collect, basically to track down different Codex carriers. And we learn that Anne Wayne didn't actually have her Codex because I guess it passes on through pregnancy.
I guess that's what it implied here.
So Eddie's son Dylan has the Codex.
Yeah.
And there's a splash page essentially showing us a bunch of tie-ins. And then the next part of the issue is picking up from one of those tie-ins, the Miles Morales one, where we have Miles and the Scorpion. Obviously, the Scorpion, Matt Gargan, was Venom for a while. And Miles claims, he's never had a symbiote. Wasn't there like a Venom arc in the Ultimate Universe?
Yeah, but he never got the symbiote, I believe. He just fought Venom.
Okay. And Eddie literally throws Matt Gargan into Carnage's arms.
Yeah, it's funny because like he's clearly like, "Hey, you get back in there and fight," and then he's like, "Ah, shit, he showed up."
I feel like you could have paced it or like depicted it slightly differently because the way it's set up, it's like he literally just like throws Scorpion into Carnage's arms.
I liked it just because it was just unintentionally funny.
Yeah, it's fucked up because then
he throws him in Carnage's arms, and then Carnage uses his like little tail stabber, and like hits him right in the spine, and paralyzes him.
Yes. So Matt Gargan is paralyzed. I'm assuming that might stick for a while. I don't know what they'll do with him after this, assuming he even survives this because he is a Carnage host. And then at the end of the issue, it's teased that Miles has gotten grabbed by Carnage, so maybe he's getting Carnageized. And Venom might just be leaving him for dead. It's not really clear.
I think he is because by the end of the issue, we see Miles' dialogue box go from white to red, so he's definitely infected at this point.
And as I said, there's that splash page, but we also get a footnote to Venom 17, which I considered reading but didn't. And then the Miles and Scorpion part clearly picks up from Absolute Carnage, Miles Morales, or whatever. So 2 issues in, there have been 6 tie-ins so far, and there will be 23 total. Which is kind of crazy because
Welcome to the world of event comics in 2019 from Marvel.
Yeah, but even then, because this seems on the surface like a smaller, more contained event than War of the Realms, and I'm sure it actually is, but it's still 23 times, and I don't know that any of us will really plan to read any of them. I think we're all sticking to the main series. Do you guys have any further thoughts on Absolute Carnage?
The art is still great. I'm having fun with it, so I'm down for this to keep continuing. I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna follow it too. Like this is probably like my first time reading like a a series with Carnage or with Venom. Like I've read Amazing Spider-Man, like McFarlane stuff, but like I haven't read like a lot of like Venom and Carnage solo stuff. I actually have a coworker who like really likes this stuff, so I'll probably keep following it. It seems fun and crazy enough for me to want to keep reading.
Then we have Amazing Spider-Man number 28. As basically we have a shitload of Spider-Man books in a row. In Amazing, Beetle is the worst girlfriend. The last issue ended. So I missed a few issues of Amazing. So Mike has been definitely keeping up.
Okay.
But last issue, that was the reveal that Randy was dating Beetle, right? That
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
read before. So the last issue was the reveal.
Randy has a new girlfriend, so that was just the first time we saw it.
So last issue, they revealed who she was, and in literally the beginning of this issue, they immediately set up that she's just terrible. And they basically break up within 3 pages. She reveals her whole plan to Randy, who obviously kicks her to the curb because she kidnapped his roommate, who he's actually friends with, and that's not Peter Parker, that's Boomerang. She basically fucked over his place of employment, which she's very passionate about, and she's like, you know, straight up breaking other laws. It's pretty screwed up. And the Kingpin shows up to collect Boomerang, and there's a footnote for the first appearance of a relatively attractive policeman, which I thought was kind of funny. Spidey shows up. Beetle flops through her backstabbing, getting exposed. Then something else revealed, and they hand Boomerang over to Spidey, and they get arrested. The Sinister Syndicate or whatever, but they're immediately busted out, so that doesn't matter. And then Boomerang shares with Spider-Man whatever the hell is going on. He kept passing around like something he had written down, but we still don't know what the hell it is. So
it's why Kingpin wants to go after him.
Yeah.
The best part about this issue is like Boomerang being like, "I'm so proud of you," to Beetle when he revealed that she was double crossing the Syndicate as he double crossed his team. It was great. I like Boomerang's been really fun with this.
Yeah, and then in the very end, it's not really clear where this Beetle Randy stuff is going. I think it would be pretty dumb if he actually gets back with her, but she kind of like gives him a half apology by fixing up Feast.
Maybe he's gonna give her a second chance.
I mean, I wouldn't, but also at the very end here, when they said her last name, made me actually remember that she is Tombstone's daughter.
I was gonna say, I was like, I remember that, I know that name,
which further complicates the fact that she's dating Randy Robertson, because the Lincolns and the Robertsons have history between their two fathers. And I'm hoping Spencer, again, I missed a few issues, but I don't think this has been called upon much, but I'm hoping Spencer possibly circles back around to that, and maybe we'll get some Robbie and Tombstone stuff, 30 years later. Would be pretty cool. I just realized I never changed the band.
Yeah, you'll figure it out eventually.
Probably not. What do you guys, any thoughts on Amazing?
It's one of the most fun books to read every time it comes out. Spencer just has such a good handle on everything, and the art's good. I know Otley's coming back soon for interiors, and then we're gonna have Gleason soon as well. But hey, this book just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, I mean it definitely has that fun vibe to it, and for characters I don't really know a lot about, like the new Beetle and all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty interesting how Spencer makes these characters interesting, and willing to jump into and learn about.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah. Speaking of more fun books, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 11 is essentially a day in life of Mary Jane. Tom Taylor and Juan Cabal. Juan Cabal on art, Tom Taylor writing. The last time I read this book was that one-off issue with Spider-Man visiting the sick kid. And that was a one-off. I guess I'm just going to read this book every time there's a one-off issue because Tom Taylor is really excelled at them. This is my pick of the week. Just a day in life of Mary Jane. We open up the issue with Peter Parker full in his Spider-Man costume as it's all ripped up because he was battling a troll that was still left over from War of the Realms. And he's picking up bagels for MJ in the morning. And there's a great moment where he like stutters and doesn't know what he wants. And there's a guy calls him out. He's like, "You've been in line for 10 minutes. How do you not know what you want?" But he's like he's beat up from fighting this troll. So MJ puts him to bed. And we get the MJ's going through her day where she's taking Aunt May for wig shopping as she's going through chemotherapy and she's lost her hair. I thought that was a really, really great moment. And then she on the subway ride home, it crashes into a troll, and she kind of like takes control with the doctor who's on the subway and kind of directs and saves the day. And she runs into Miles, and there's a great moment where she sees like the shadow of Spider-Man up. She's like, "I thought I told you to stay in bed, but it's Miles," and it's a pretty fun like moment between them. Where for me, I think it was the first time I've ever seen them meet, which was fun. And they both kind of team up and beat the troll. And MJ comes back with a pizza, and they just go up on top of the roof and talk. And it all hinges on the remark that Peter Parker is MJ's responsibility. And I thought this is a really, really well put together issue. And I'm all down for more issues centered completely on MJ.
You know what was funny with this story is that in the beginning with the narration, I thought that was Peter talking, and then at the end, it flips to the point where you realize that this whole story has been being told by MJ, and I thought that was really cool the way they brought it all back full circle at the beginning because I was like, oh, Peter's just talking about himself again, all that stuff, like in the third person about Spider-Man, but no, it was MJ all along. But yeah,
It's one of those things that I think about where it's like, because she has met all these other heroes, um, like the Adams. Well, I guess because he's dead. I don't even know if he's still alive. Um, like the Adams wife would hang out on the JLA satellite and kind of hang out with the heroes. I'd kind of want to see more with that from MJ, just kind of like in the background at like an Avengers party or something, because she knows all the characters. So
Well,
it's just kind of a fun thing, but on a one-off, she doesn't have to do it all the time.
I mean, she does and she doesn't. She's actually more of like in the Lois Lane type situation because Spidey's, the secret identity is closer to him. But
Right.
the closest you got to that was during that brief Civil War era, and especially
Yeah.
since they were living.
Especially when they were living in Avengers Tower after Aunt May's house burned down.
But you talk about how this was well put together, and Dan said circling around, like the structure of this issue really impressed me, where you literally have the bookends of both of them getting food waking the other one up with food and
Yeah.
fighting trolls. And one of them says spectacular, one of them says sensational, and there's just good character stuff. Like the only thing is the menu part for like the first panel until it's like fully explained in the conversation with MJ later. I thought the implication was that Spidey, and maybe this is like my super dickery interpretation. I initially thought the joke was that Spidey got to the front of the line and was expecting to be offered free food.
That would have been great too.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this issue. It's really great. And again, like the narration event that MJ concludes to, like this issue again makes a point that MJ is essential to Peter Parker and to Spider-Man, story wise and character wise. And I feel like a lot of writers, I don't know if it's a generational thing.
A lot of writers. Her name's Dan Slott.
Yeah, I don't know if it's generational or if it's editorial relaxing or new editorial and stuff like that. We're seeing even beyond, Nick Spencer's actions, we're seeing an overall wave back to accepting MJ and making her really integral to Spider-Man.
Right. Dan, bring us home with the Spider-Man trash.
oh, I'm so happy I got the shittiest Spider-Man book of the week here.
I gave you the choice.
Yeah, I know. It's fine. So Spider-Man Life Story, I'm gonna pull it up here so I can scroll through it. But pretty
A
much,
lot happens in this.
what'd you say?
A lot happens in this.
It does. So pretty much, this is the 2010s. So this is the last issue, obviously, of this series. We're actually now in the current year, 2019. So I'm assuming Pete's probably like, I don't know, what, 75 or something? 75
He's
years old?
old.
He's old AF. So he shows up and he's going in a rocket ship with Miles Morales up into space. And on the way up, you have Peter just kind of talking about how great Miles is, all this shit, and yeah, talking about how Miles was also bitten by a spider, and I can't remember exactly what why they're going up to space. I think there's like
They're,
something.
they're going up to space because they need to make a doohickey to stop Doctor Doom from getting the doohickey of all the superheroes' secret identities from Civil War, from that fallout with like Tony or something.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so
Like a last
nothing,
bastion of a Tony Stark space station that's still active.
okay, so nothing really important. So we get up there, and we find out that well, actually, they're attacked by this like Craven's Venom like combination.
Yeah, what we saw all the way back at the end of issue 3 that Craven doesn't kill himself. He got the Venom symbiote.
That's correct because he fights. Doesn't he fight Peter's kids in the woods? I think.
I can't remember that, but yeah, he fights Carnage Venom, and it's pretty lazy, as it's Venom with just like a Craven vest on.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not really much there going on. But they find out pretty much that Miles is actually like Otto Octavius. So we get a little bit of kind of like references, I guess, to Superior Spider-Man in this,
Miles
which kind of ties.
Morales superior.
Yeah. My Otto took
Yeah,
over Miles' body.
That's really weird.
it's really weird. So they end up fighting each other for a little bit, and then they realize that they have to, um, band together to kind of save what's left of the Earth. But before that, we get this like really weird like dream sequence where Peter's basically fighting against like all of Otto's like I guess allies and shit, and then we have May Parker show up in the dream sequence and basically make Otto not evil anymore. And that was a little weird. Like, there's a comment in here where Peter goes like, all these years of fighting Otto, and all it took was for you to show up in a dream to make him go away. And I thought that was funny. But yeah, pretty much at the end of this, they're trying to stop this, and they realize that Peter has to send Miles's body down into an escape pod because he realizes that he can't risk Miles' body being occupied by Otto.
Well, that
You know,
can only save one of us, so
what'd you say?
Peter sac. Well, you can only save one of us too, so
Yeah,
Peter's gonna stay behind and die.
exactly. So he stays behind, blows himself up, and then has a dream about seeing MJ again. Um, and that's pretty much the end of it. There's a scene at the end where I guess Miles and Otto switch bodies again. So Miles is back to his own body, and he's like, "I want to pull the cord on you so badly, you motherfucker, but I'm not going to." And then at the end here, MJ gives Miles Peter's suit,
Yeah,
and
it's the original Spider-Man costume.
yes, and at the very end, we get a sequence back to the original burglar who ran away that killed Uncle Ben. And in this sequence, we have Peter actually stopping the robber. So
Yeah, it's a dream he was having.
yeah, so I think that's a kind of a cool end to this. But yeah, this whole thing I feel like could have been executed a little bit differently and probably would have
Yeah,
been better.
I think after reading all of it, I can definitively say each issue got worse in some way, form, or another.
Yeah,
I don't think this is going to be really remembered as. This strikes me as a thing that's going to be remembered as like, oh, remember this interesting thing they tried like 10 years ago and it wasn't great?
yeah, and I can say right now that there are some panels, especially in the beginning of this issue, where Bagley's art is just really, really bad. Like I know we
It's
mentioned it
not
a few
good.
times. Yeah, like I know we mentioned it a few times, and trust me, I'm a huge Mark Bagley fan. I love his
Well,
art
I'm the one
department.
defending him on this book, but I couldn't defend him on this issue.
Nah, I mean towards the end it's probably a little bit better, but I mean the beginning with like the mechanized armor suits that like Miles and Peter were wearing were so stupid because they had like the eye slits that you can see their eyes through, and it just looks really stupid and weird. So I wasn't a fan of that. But Yeah, I don't know. Mike, you're the only other person who read this, right? So what did you think?
This is a letdown. Like I liked Peter's death. I thought that was good. The splash page we got from Bagley, where it's all the villains versus all the different iterations of Spider-Man, I thought was the best page of the book. I thought he signed for that page, but overall, I think it was a lot packed in for an ending. And yeah, I did not enjoy it this issue. I think too much going on. I would have preferred something else for maybe centered around Peter's children taking over more. But I know it was a series about Peter aging. I fully expected him to die in this issue. But yeah, a whole issue taking place in space, so devoid of anything else that's really happened in this series, just felt completely out of place. Um, I think the series was an interesting and fun idea, but I don't really think it hit a home run. Maybe maybe it hit a single and it got on first base, but it did not. It didn't make it home to score.
You've seen baseball references now.
Yeah, I did not read this. I refused to read the final issue because each issue just bugged me out more and more. But I have no idea what the point of this was. This was like totally not at all what I expected when they announced the premise.
Yeah,
And
we were expecting it. We were expecting Marvels, but solely Spider-Man focused.
yeah, and it would have been interesting to see like someone like Kurt Busiek approach this premise or something like
The
that.
Chip Zdarsky covers for these issues were more interesting than the entire series.
Yeah, and you said this earlier, like, how are people going to remember this? Like, this is not remotely going to be like an evergreen book. This
Oh,
isn't
no.
even, it's not even going to be like the first 10 Spider-Man books you should read. Whereas, when they announced it, I'm like, this is a really cool concept.
It's going to be something you find in a comic book store behind a bunch of other stuff and go, oh, well, what was this? And then you'll remember.
Yeah, it's gonna be in a Books Million like probably 2 to 3 years for like $5,
I mean, maybe.
maybe 6.
Okay. Action Comics 1014. I don't know DC continuity. I don't know anything anymore because this cover, by the way, is supercharged by Lex Luthor. The Red Cloud attacks. Red Cloud appears for one page in this, not even as Red Cloud. Or no, she is, but she's not fighting Superman.
Well, we've already, discussed
Yeah, getting past that, we open up with Bendis does these recap pages from like Twitter, and we see all these events that have happened in other Superman books. We even have a panel referencing Wonder Twins, but this whole issue is a flashback to Perry White meeting Marisol Leone, the new owner of the Daily Planet, for the first time, and then Clark Kent's first meeting with her. But if I'm following Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and even Action, they've met already. So I think this is a flashback, but it's still playing on the uncovering who Leviathan is stuff. So I don't know when this takes place. I'm almost sure it's a flashback because Lois is still living in Chicago, but then we're seeing all the stuff with Rose and Thorn going after the Red Cloud, and that was the last arc. So I don't know what's going on. Like it's so disjointed for what's happening here. The takeaway here, though, is that Clark Kent has his meeting with Leone, and he's trying to like uncover who she is using his super senses and asking her as he's talking with Lois, and then he sees a lightning bolt streak across the sky, and they think it's John, but no, it turns out to be crashing down into the city metropolis past the Daily Planet building. It's Naomi, who needs help from Superman. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I think it's a flashback, but I don't know. So
Okay.
Naomi's story continues in Action Comics. I wish I had more to know. Like nothing really significant happens other than those last 3 pages where Naomi shows up.
Okay.
And I guess it teases next issue is a Superman and Batman team up to help Naomi. Great.
That was like the shortest review ever.
Listen, I would talk more if more shit happened. I don't know when that issue takes place.
What the fuck is going on?
That was in my head. I was reading it. I don't know what's happening.
Anything is possible.
And it's not like I haven't been reading Action Comics. I've been reading Action Comics. Angel #4, a book I have been reading and know what's going on. Angel beats the demon thing that's been taking over teenagers' cell phones and social media. And Lilith, the demon, restores Fred's memories. So they're back on the same page. As Angel gets back, she relays the message that Lilith told her, is that they have to gather their army for the upcoming crossover event, and they need a gun. So, and it teases to Gunn, who was he was kind of a vampire hunter in the TV show that Angel took under his wing, and hung out. He was a human that he trained up. So it was cool to see him. He's dressed like Blade in this a little bit. So he has like a more tactical look. In the show, he started out as a member of an LA gang who hunted vampires. So it was cool to see him. While Angel's was having his visions in the Hell dimension, he was like face to face with the version of Buffy, and we saw a bunch of other characters that he's going to run into in the future. So this is all gearing up for the Hellmouth crossover event for the Angel books, which I guess is the excuse to get these books kind of weaving together pretty quickly because we haven't had much crossover between all the casts yet. And I'm interested to see how the Angel core cast is going to flesh itself out because in the show, the characters were past high school by that point when they were teaming up with Angel for the ones from Buffy that came over. So, but in this continuity, Angel's already on his own having his detective agency, and he hasn't met the Buffy characters yet, and the Buffy characters are still in high school. So I like the dynamic that's going to go on here, and I'm looking forward to it. Solid issue. Dan, you're talking about Avengers.
Oh, great. So, Avengers number
It's right
23.
there on the screen.
What'd you say?
It's right there on the screen.
No, I'm sorry. I'm pulling it up on my. I'm pulling the actual issue up so I can look at it. So anyway, so Avengers 23 is picking up with the Ghost Rider arc from the last issue. You know, we have this guy. I forget what his name. Oh, Hellstorm, who's
Yeah.
kind of like helping with the, I guess, like the celestial like being that is, I guess, their fort. I think that's what they said it was. I haven't been keeping up with this series.
Well,
So
last we came in to try to perform an exorcism on the car
yeah, and then basically
from
yeah,
from Robbie.
and basically it unleashed like all these different like demons and shit on the base. And there's a cool scene here where we get the armory like possessed by these like hell demons kind of things. So you have like all these Iron Man armors that are like basically fighting against the Avengers, like Black Panther and Captain America. You get Boy Thing show up, who will be come into more importance later down the line in this story. Um, we get a brief history of the Ghost Rider going all the way back to him riding a mammoth, a flaming mammoth, which I thought was fucking weird. But it's whatever. And then we get a pretty good story between Robbie and Johnny Blaze, talking about how they don't want to do it anymore. And I'm just thinking the whole time, like, Robbie's just like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And Johnny's like, you're gonna fucking do this, and he's like, no, I'm not. And then obviously, I'm just waiting for Johnny to be like, I'm gonna do something to your brother, and that's right. Robbie suddenly jumps up and does it. Like it's so predictable, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna get him to like want to do that. That's the only thing I can think of that's gonna make him want to do this race, as if his brother's health or safety is called into question.
Yeah, but I liked some of the interplay, and there's like Johnny says the one line. He says, "You're really the worst Ghost Rider ever." which
Yeah.
is obvious. It's obviously a joke, but certain Ghost Riders are going to pull that line out of context and be like, "Yeah, I agree." And then when Robbie finally threatens Johnny back after Johnny threatens his brother, Johnny's like, "You just made your first deal with the devil. Now you're a real Ghost Rider." I think they actually, I think they have a fun interplay.
It's kind of like a tale of two moments in this book, where I like all the Ghost Rider stuff, and I wish this was just a Ghost Rider book because I don't give a shit about any of the Avengers stuff that goes on here. Thor's dialogue is so poorly written compared to the main book that Aaron's also writing that it feels like a completely different character. I don't know how that's possible. And I know, Vince, you're going to talk about how the Avengers book's supposed to be more mainstream, but if the same writer is supposed to be keeping the same status quo between two books, Thor should talk the same.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly the same vibe I got. Like the best parts of this book were the Ghost Rider parts, and the Avengers ones. I mean, yeah, parts of it were just really slow and kind of boring for me.
Especially in the beginning, there's a sequence where it's Thor and She-Hulk showing back up, and they run into Cap, and Thor and Cap have the worst exchange of dialogue for
So bad.
a page.
It's so boring.
It's both of them awful. And honestly, in this sequence, I think Captain America is even way more off character, out of character than Thor. And it was just so weird.
Also, I guess the Black Panther suit is fine to not need a radiation protected suit around it, as they're running around trying to stop this explosion.
Apparently, vibranium is impervious to radiation too.
Well, that's I mean, I think the Coates run definitely predates the movie, but both the movie and the Cates run have focused on the Black Panther suit more as a technological and also slightly supernatural thing.
Okay.
Whereas previously it's he has some slight supernatural-ish powers, but he's wearing a suit. It's it's a very advanced, materials and everything, but now he can do those shockwave things and all that crap.
All right, but why does Thor, who is a thunder god, need a suit?
Yeah, there's not really much consistency there. Hulks shouldn't necessarily need one.
I was going to say the Hulk's powered by radiation.
Gamma radiation, the worst type of radiation you possibly have.
It doesn't make much sense, and also it's hard to gauge because he's being used as a guest character, and that's honestly at this point the best chance he has. But I don't fully like Jason Aaron's Hellstorm. He kind of writes him and is directing the artist to draw him as this slightly hipster is the wrong word, but he's almost like a slacker character. I don't like the way they're drawing his beard. It's really weird, but what's the demon?
So the demon ends up actually being the cosmic Ghost Rider. So we'll see how next issue goes, but I thought you liked Cosmic Ghost Rider, Mike.
I like Cosmic Ghost Rider when it's written by Donny Cates.
What do you think? Here comes Jason.
I have no faith in Jason Aaron doing this.
Look, he even has his logo in his dialogue box at the end. Cosmic Ghost Rider, if you will.
You have to. But
you have to. Thanks. So it's a rule.
We've got 3 riders here, and the one I care about, he better show up in this arc. He has a book coming soon. This would be, it would make sense, but we'll see if Danny shows up. I need to look ahead at solicits probably, but I don't know. Pretty much same thoughts. The Avengers stuff I don't really care about, but I started reading this arc for the Ghost Rider stuff, and when it's actually focused on that, I think it's actually pretty decent.
Definitely.
Decent is a word I want to use to describe this book. Batman Superman #1 by Joshua Williamson and David Marquez, who's doing the art on this.
Yes.
Art's great. Can we just have them team up and not have to deal with Dark Knight's Metal bullshit? because that'd be a lot easier. But
It's the year of the villain, dude.
yeah, wouldn't it be cool if they were teaming up against like a Lex and Joker team up? It would be much cooler. Yeah, I don't even know how to begin recapping this, and I didn't even hate it. It was just like the voices for Batman and Superman are just they're good, but they're just so far off that it annoys me. The whole crux of it opens with like a dream sequence where Superman gets called into action by Batman to go to the JLA satellite, and he finds all the Justice League murdered, and then he gets like inhales kryptonite dust, and then he starts puking up kryptonite, and it's revealed that it's the Dark Knight Metal Joker. It's the Batman who laughs, who kills Superman, but that was just a dream sequence. And Batman and Gordon are hanging out on the GCPD roof, and Superman just shows up and drops Killer Croc in front of him, and he's like, "Hey, I was in the area," knowing that they have to go after the Batman who laughs, and Superman's offering his help in investigating who are the like 6 infected people that the Batman who laughs infected when he was doing his little takeover thing. Um, Fun banter between Gordon and Superman there, where he tells him to stop smoking cigarettes. That's kind of been always an ongoing thing. Um, but Superman and Batman go into action. They find the cave of the Batman who laughs, which they know the location of it because Gordon was being held there, I guess, in that miniseries. I didn't read it. Um, but they find all like these twisted, horrible, hellish weapons, and they get attacked by one of the Batman who laughs little Joker demons things, and it's revealed that this is no ordinary little kid Joker who got turned into a henchman. It's Billy Batson from the Dark Knight's Metal universe, and he becomes the Shazam who laughs. I feel like I'm reading fan fiction.
Yeah, this
I hate that.
This was not. I was not a fan of this.
I don't know if I'm going to continue it.
Yeah,
I really don't.
it just seems like a waste opportunity. Like this would be. This could have. Like there could have been a million different ways it could have went with this series, and the fact that they picked that is just really stupid.
Just like I'm going on adventures like it should be.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, I guess, Frank Miller ruined the Batman and Superman relationship, where everyone has to like hint that they're enemies. They're not. They're friends. They work together all the time, and specifically when they team up, they're the world's finest. They're the best team that any two heroes can be in the DC universe. So why, like, there should be no reason why they don't like each other.
That reminds me.
I don't get it.
That reminds me. I still have to read World's Finest.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, they have differences in somewhere, but at the end of the day, they're good friends. I don't know why we have to keep hinting that they're eventually going to fight each other. There's nothing interesting about Batman fighting Superman to me.
Yeah, like the whole bickering back and forth about like, oh, if I turned evil, what would you do? What's your contingency plan? Like, I don't care about that shit.
You know what the contingency plan is? Superman picks up Batman and throws him into the sun.
Yeah, the end. Good night.
Well, the contingency plan is neither of them ever turns evil because that's not that interesting of a story for comic book superhero genre, which is supposed to be inspirational, aspirational.
Yeah, and like when you have that team, it should be nothing but that.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
And then obviously, I'm sure Shazam / Captain Marvel fans are very excited about the quote unquote appearances here.
Actually, I'm going to say no. I'm not reading the next issue because I can't do this anymore. I hate reading bad Batman Superman writing. Captain America number 13. Am I doing this one too? I was.
Yeah.
Somehow I signed up for 3 in a row, I guess. Oh, no. Just 2 in a row. Continuing along with the Steve Rogers Super Soldier Captain America No More thing from Coates. And we have a new artist on here, Jason Masters and Sean Azaksky. Is that how you say it?
I think it's just like Isaacs, to be honest.
I thought it was Isaacs too.
I'm pretty sure he used to have pronunciation in his like Twitter bio, but I think he doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
But
So Steve
he
is
drew
basically
he
you
drew that
continue.
Fantastic Four Hulk fight.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that it looks similar. Aunt Peggy is reading the rundown on Baron Strucker and how he was taken down and like his being killed and how Captain America was framed for it and everything. And she's texting Sharon Carter what needs to happen while they're on a kind of on a ship planning their next mission. And it's Captain America is they gotta. It's basically they gotta pull a PR stunt to get Steve Rogers back in the positive public eye. So they're gonna send him to the border, and he's gonna bust a bunch of people out of the camps that the that they're being held in for trying to get across the border for these immigrants. So Captain America and the White Tiger are going to go in and liberate it. And Steve's like, I don't know if this is the best idea because technically, this is illegal. But they're like, no, you need to. This is all a PR stunt, kind of, and also it'll look good and you'll help people. And Steve's like, basically on the side of, all right, I don't agree with this, but let's go in and stop it. When they go in, like, there's these like soldiers who are just like with like laser rifles that are just mowing people down like horrifyingly. But Steve shows up with his hologram shield and they save everyone. Um, and basically it's a mission one and they get out of there and they're realizing who this shadow operative is going along, and Nick Fury Jr. gets attacked by her, and she's like, you have a lot to learn, and she takes Nick Fury prisoner. That's what happens in this. It's all right. I think it's a little ham-fisted with the current political agenda with current events. But like, I'm down to watch Captain America run down and liberate a bunch of people that are getting shot by laser rifles.
They gotta make sure they don't build the wall and they don't build it huge.
Guess so. It's pretty much what happens in this issue. It's not bad, but I don't think there's anything deep to comment on here. I do like the idea that they have to get Steve back in the public eye of doing things positive to get Captain America back on their side so he can be Captain America again. I think that's an interesting idea, but I don't think it's played or delved in continuing more here. But I think they're going to delve into that more as this arc goes on. Dan, you have any more thoughts on this issue?
No, I mean, I kind of jumped into this like at the conclusion of one arc and the beginning of another. So,
Right.
this is definitely something I'm probably gonna try to pick up and trade at some point. Probably read through to kind of understand it all. But like you said, not really much going on here. I guess just more like set up for the rest of this arc, whatever it's leading up to. Like, who's that woman at the end? Is she like? Is that Black Widow or who is that?
It's this shadowy character that's been hinted at through the run. I think we'll figure it out by next issue who it is. I thought that was supposed to be Peggy Carter, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Judging by the banner change, I will move on to Detective Comics number 1010. So, picking up from the last issue, Bruce Wayne was on his way to, I think, the Philippines, I think, somewhere in Asia.
Yeah, he was going to like a tech conference.
Yeah, with a bunch of bigwigs in his plane. That plane was hijacked by Deadshot, and the plane crashed in the Pacific in an island somewhere. And these two old guys come along and pick Bruce Wayne up and take him away, while the rest of the people who survived the crash, obviously, are still in the crash site being held hostage by Deadshot. And while he's being held while Deadshot's holding all these people prisoner, he's attacked by this giant like panther, and he's able to fend the panther off. The panther ends up running back, and we flash back to Bruce talking with these two guys who were World War II veterans who crashed their planes on this island and have been living there ever since. And they get a kind of a discussion about what they were. I mean, one of them I think worked for, or one of them was a Japanese pilot. The other was an American pilot, and they both were like fighting each other on this island for like years until they eventually were like, yeah, let's just like try to survive together. And it's almost, to me, it's like very improbable that they are still alive to the
No, I think
they're
that's
talking.
we're going to delve into the mystery of this island.
Yeah. Um, so as they're talking, this Panther comes back, finds out that he was hurt, and Bruce Wayne's like, I know exactly who would have done that. That asshole named Deadshot. So they're being held hostage, and then Batman shows up with like this makeshift suit, which I think looks kind of cool.
It reminds me of Red Sun Batman.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, a little bit.
leather jacket with goggles.
Yeah. It now is the Red Sun Batman kind of based off of the Batman that was in Batman vs Superman.
No.
No,
So that's something else that's completely stupid.
BVS is
No.
Dark Knight Returns inspired.
well, no, it's
Loosely. It's the armor parts.
well, no, he's talking about the desert Batman.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see that comparison.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. So anyway, they start fighting each other, and Bruce just all of a sudden, I think he thinks he knocks out Deadshot, and he starts running towards the plane to help the hostages. And Deadshot's like, "I'm gonna shoot you right in the back," and then that's where we end.
All the people are bait as he's got his sights locked on Batman.
Yes, and then
Mr. Freeze is doing stuff still. Nothing
yeah,
has happened.
yep, Mr. Freeze is putting his, I guess, wife or girlfriend, whatever, under ice. So they're set up for that.
No, he's taking her out of ice.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Putting her back on ice? I don't know what's happening.
It's 2 pages of just entirely meaningless stuff. There's not even like interesting character dialogue.
No, he's definitely putting her back into ice because the vat was closing on her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what the hell?
Takes her out to like talk to her and touch her, but she's not like fully like conscious or awake yet. And then he puts her back in. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is definitely, I think, my pick of the week. I really thought this was a fun story. Detective Comics just seems like a really good point to jump into if you're, kind of new to Batman and kind of like trying to just jump in and read a story with Batman in it. Yeah, I just really like this whole story. What did you guys think?
Yeah, still solid. You can make the argument right now that Batman and Tech are really, really strong books. Batman, obviously, much more in place with a 100 issue long saga that is going to hinge on you of have read a lot of it. But Detective feels very evergreen where you can jump right in, and having it under the helm of Tomasi, who has had the experience of being an editor. He knows his DC continuity. He knows his DC history. But he also has a long tenure writing Batman and writing Batman successfully. He gets this character, so he's able to like very much construe like these fun couple issue arcs using a bunch of villains, and we get to see a bunch of other heroes that we might not get a chance to see in other books. He's really, really good with that, and I think pound for pound, you could make the argument that Detective Comics might be the stronger Batman book right now in terms of enjoyment. Not to say I love Tom King's Batman run, but I think I would immediately hand the current issues of that to someone right now. I can hand anyone this Detective Comics book, and I think they would very much enjoy it.
Yep.
Did you catch the Red Skies reference to Crisis?
Yeah.
That was strange and cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Same thoughts, really. I really enjoy this book. I feel like this should be a 3-part arc.
Yeah.
Next issue, and again, I don't look at, I don't remember solicitations. This seems like it should be wrapped up next issue. If it goes 4, I think that's a little stretching. But it's good here. The Mr. Freeze pages are just totally pointless. But that really just applies to all of these
As
years.
long as they lead to something and have a payoff, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great. So next, Dial H number 6. We cover New Phone Who Dis.
It's a Kingdom Come.
Yeah, Summer turns back into the same hero we already saw, so something's going on. And then everyone in Metropolis starts transforming into heroes through their cell phones because Mr. Thunderbolt has hacked the H-Dial. And it turns out there's a second blue H-Dial. And then the book starts getting like, you start seeing like a Dan Klaus, like monochrome comic book with like staples on top of the other comic pages.
Yeah.
It gets really out there. But eventually Miguel turns into Super Miguel because it's like we need Superman, but Superman's not here. So he becomes a Superman analog, and he saves a crashing airplane by inspiring other heroes to help him out. And this is like his origin story. There's all this stuff of that, and then
secret origin.
And then there's, I mean, I don't want to make it sound too anticlimactic, but then the book kind of just like ends. He hugs Summer and they depower. Like there's no confrontation here with Mr. Thunderbolt, and that's where you call into question, some of the planning and stuff because it was announced at some point that all of these Wonder Comics books were getting extended to 12 issues instead of 6.
Right.
So this is going to continue, and then in the background, you have the Thunderbolt Club underneath the Daily Planet, and apparently there are 4 H-Dials or H-Dial type devices. And if Mr. Thunderbolt is able to assemble all 4, then I guess he can turn everyone in the multiverse into a superhero. I still don't understand his plan.
Yeah, I don't understand.
He gets out of it, but it's just kind of chaos funny. And then, I mean, not the main, but a major appeal of this book is just Joe Quinones like just flexing on the haters, like just demolishing people artistically. There's lots of homages, both to certain artist styles and then costume designs. There's a Matt Groening character, out of The Simpsons or Futurama. There's a like Wonder Woman Glory type looking character, which is straight up Adam Hughes. There's a Brian Lee O'Malley thing. I think it's from Seconds. I think that's the name of the book. There's like an anthropomorphic animal, like reminiscent of like less so actually the Turtles, but like all the Turtle ripoffs of that era.
Yeah.
There's like a weird like 2-arm like Winter Soldier guy. I think that was the reference. There's a guy with like 2 metal arms. That looks kind of funny. There's straight up. I mean, we talked about how Batman was in Marvel Comics 1000. Squirrel Girl is in this book, just full stop.
Yeah.
Squirrel Girl appears in Dilation number 6. There's one character, and the style, I'd say like a Frank Quitely, but I think we already had. No, we had Mobius. I don't know.
Frank Quitely because he's in the same costume that the 2 Kryptonians were in All-Star Superman.
There's a Dark Knight Returns mutant named Frank. After Frank Miller, obviously. There's a Rocketeer type character, but who is like on like she's on Orion's thingy jig. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
There's a like cartoony Ghost Rider type thing, and there's an Akira character. There's someone with Tetsuo's jacket.
There's a woman who's dressed like Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was. There's also like some kind of like Final Fantasy type character. I couldn't fully pick up on that reference either. But this issue, like honestly, you could just flip through this. Like Quinones is just really, really amazing. Like ridiculously diverse in style.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's good. It's fun. You should read it.
Yeah, this is a definite trade pickup for me. Next, so Marvel, they're kind of going back to quarterly books. Venom has them. They call them Web of Venom, I believe. And now Fantastic Four is getting them, which I guess they're really pumping up Fantastic Four because Future Foundation also just launched. I think these quarterly books were announced at the same time. Even though I don't think Slott's book is like, it's not selling like hotcakes or anything. You'd think they'd be announcing a quarterly Hulk book or some shit. But Fantastic Four, 4 Yancey Street, written by Jerry Duggan, art passed around baton style between Greg Smallwood, Mark Bagley, Luciano Vecchio, and Pere Perez. There's some Ben Grimm origin stuff referenced here, like his brother and his father and his rough upbringing. A lot of that stuff actually is from the Thing solo series by John Byrne and Ron Wilson from the 80s. Like his brother wasn't introduced until then, but his brother passed, and Ben set up a youth center on Yancey Street named after his brother. And some kid tags it with graffiti, and it turns out that the Fantastic Four living on Yancey Street has risen rent and property taxes. So this essentially is a gentrification story. And the terrible trio of kind of obscure villains show up as muscle for landlords. And I thought initially it's kind of a weak showing for Ben. He kind of gets the shit beat out of him by some C tiers. And Sue then shows up and fixes it. I thought that was kind of weird. Like, Ben could have actually, won this fight. He technically doesn't really. And then he goes to Reed, and Reed, they use the wacky tech, which allows the Fantastic Four to live on Yancey, and they use it on all the buildings on the street. So it like adds extra units in the same size buildings, so everyone can still stay here. And I don't know how the hell that works. Like, there's so many like economic questions accidentally brought up by this issue. And it turns out in the end, this was all some ruse by Doctor Doom. And I'm assuming it doesn't need to be, but I'm assuming that's not going to get followed up on. And this has to take place before the Hulk fight because he doesn't have the cast. I assume, and I'm really hoping that he keeps the cast on for a little bit. Otherwise, it would be kind of pointless. I enjoyed this overall. I liked seeing a lot of the flashback stuff. I like seeing the character of the Yancey Street kids and Ben like dealing with anger, and then also, figuring it out in the end, and working with Reed and Sue, and there's Johnny shows up. I thought this was a fine little one shot.
Did you like that the reveal at the end that it was all Doctor Doom?
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
I don't expect it to go anywhere, but I thought it was fun.
I thought it was nice, cute, and wholesome. I was like, This is fun.
That's the type of like Doctor Doom stuff that you'd expect in the 70s and 80s. Like, now, a lot of writers are like, Doctor Doom's supposed to be this serious, stick up his ass, major S tier villain, but it's like, no, sometimes he just like trolls on the Fantastic Four, including this issue where there's literally like a pie that the Thing gets in his face.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, so moving over to Flash number 77. Picking up from the last issue, we have all the Flashes kind of meeting up, and they're attacked by the Black Flash. But before we get to that, there is a slight prelude to this, where we get a bunch of villains kind of teaming up in the Amazon. There's Captain Cold, and I'm not sure who the other two are. So
Captain Cold and Heatwave are recruiting Weather Wizard.
Okay, cool. So that's probably building up for another storyline down the road. But before we get to that, there is, Black Flash is attacking the other Flashes, and we basically get like a cool scene where they're all kind of just like distracting the Black Flash and kind of misleading him in different directions until they get away, because that's pretty much the only way they can escape him, because they're all slowing down. So
You know what this reminds me of, especially the overhead shot? Reminds me of Tron.
yeah, a little bit, kind of. I can see that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So they end up like misleading him by like thinking that making one of the statues look like Flash, so they're able to get away. And pretty much the way they find out they can stop Black Flash is to recruit the other forces, I guess, like the Strength Force and I don't know what else. I forget what the other one was. But pretty much the rest of this issue is just a big recruiting mission. So they go to recruit the Strength Force. This girl named Avery. I don't really know much about it. is fighting this huge.
She's Fuerza. Avery is the Pink Flash.
Oh, okay, my bad. I'm totally not paying attention here. Anyway, so she's fighting this like giant shark man, and cracks his jaw, throws him like a million miles, and she's like, "Okay, I'll help you guys. Let's go find this other guy in Zandia."
I want to mention for Mike, this Strength Force character Fuerza is based in Corto Maltese from Dark Knight Returns.
Or Batman 89.
Yeah.
So the next person to go to recruit is Psyche, and he's in the middle of trying to break into this place that's going on with all these like high class like executives that are like laundering money and stuff. And Flash kind of steals him and is like tells him why he needs his help and all that stuff. And he ends up actually turning against them and is like, "Yeah, if what you're telling me is true, then I'm getting the hell out of here, and I'm going to use you guys as a diversion to get away." And that's kind of where the end of this issue ends. So there's still setup going on here with this, I guess. Probably next issue will be another type of recruitment type of issue, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of background on a lot of these characters, but I kind of can see where this is going, and I'm still gonna stay on with the series, but I'm curious to see what you guys thought.
This Sage Force guy is a total just dipshit asshole. I don't know how many other Force characters exist because we jumped on this series late. I think there's 7 Forces, and we've seen 3 of them. So I don't know if the other 4 have been introduced. How many else we're going to collect? And the next issue tease title is War of the Forces next. But there was an arc 3 arcs ago called Force War, which they also footnote in here. So it's like, geez, all this Force bullshit. That's what I find that interesting. So honestly, even though I don't like those characters, I would have preferred this issue focus more on Kid Flash and Avery going after all the escaped rogues since the Trickster destroyed Iron Heights. But it's still pretty decent. The art's good.
See, I won't be reading a Flash book until Flash Forward, so
I don't think that's going to be too good either.
it's going to be terrible. I'm not looking forward to it.
All right, House of X number 3. Surprisingly, I don't think I have as much to say about this. I think this.
I have something to say. Too many charts again.
Well,
Too many charts. Too many charts.
I agree, and I agree in the respect that the charts in this issue were way less important. It was like
they break up every action. Like the X-Men take off, and we finally see an X-Men mission. Boom! Here's a chart. Like, God.
Yeah, the charts here were like, this is the order of Sentinels, and it's like I don't care. Like, previous charts, especially actually like the last 2 issues or so, the charts have had really relevant information and tied in with the story. They don't here, and so actually I was at the point where it's like, okay, I know these aren't important, so it didn't bother me because I was practically skipping them. But essentially, Scott Summers gets his orders from his gay dads. Professor X says, "You make me so proud," and Magneto's like, "You can never truly die, because for you to die, you have to be forgotten. You founded a nation." And so he assembles his team. He's bringing with him Wolverine, obvious pick, Nightcrawler, Archangel, Marvel Girl. That's Jean Grey's code name again. And then the cool,
Back in her second costume.
and then the cool pick, the unexpected picks are M, Husk, and then Mystique.
Yeah.
And then Sabretooth is about to go to a super villain Supermax when Emma Frost and the Cuckoos show up, strutting in the courtroom and just power moves the fuck out of everyone.
It's awesome.
It was a great showing for Emma. And that's fun. And also, I think Sabretooth was handled very well here, where he's just like a straight up psychopath.
He's just like he is just chewing the scenery.
Yeah, even though at sometimes I like him kind of face turn. Nightcrawler and Omega Sentinel, when they get on, so their mission is they're going to try and go sabotage the Mother Mold in the sun. And when they board the ship, Nightcrawler and Omega Sentinel acknowledge each other, which I was very satisfying for me because that's essentially Hickman acknowledging that he actually knows who Omega Sentinel is and acknowledging that there's a heel turn here, since she was a member of the X-Men, a Claremont creation from Extreme and then the House of M era. Because when we first saw her, I'm like, okay, Hickman found a character and is like, I'm going to use them this way. But it's all acknowledged here. There's continuity. And one of the guys on the satellite suicide bombs the place, and I feel they did his dialogue enough. Like, Hickman executed his dialogue in a way where you do sympathize with him, even though this is obviously an X-Men book, and he's like a researcher figuring out how to kill a species of minority people. But Hickman handled his dialogue where it's not over the top caricature, like religious extremist type stuff, anti-mutant. But then it's just kind of anticlimactic. I felt this issue abruptly ended. They didn't finish their mission, and we'll just have to wait possibly 2 weeks, because I don't know if Powers of X is going to immediately follow this. It's hard to say. Powers of X might go back to the all the Moira stuff.
Yeah. It was cool to finally see some like X-Men action, like them going on a mission. That was good. I like the MS stuff. Too many charts breaking up the action dragged this down for me, but still enjoying it.
See, I kind of ignored the charts a bit, so this is one of my favorite issues because it's really the first issue that feels like an X-Men story. But
no, I'll agree with that. It's just, I think though, with the flow of the issue, I think it bogged down and took me out of the scene.
Yeah. Dan, I forget. Did you bail on Hoxpox?
I am waiting to read it in trade.
Probably smart, to be honest.
Probably smart, but you're going to be completely clueless when we start talking about X-Men.
That's fine. I'm already clueless with that shit anyway.
That's how it works.
Yes.
That's how it works. Justice League number 30. The Justice Doom War begins, as this is basically just a whole prelude over to what's going on. Open up with a vision of Perpetua being activated, and the Legion of Doom and Lex Luthor has won through Starman. So the Justice League basically pulls an Avengers Endgame where they got to recruit every hero ever to assemble for this, and they split off to go to two missions, like two teams where they're going to go across the world and grab all of these MacGuffins. One of them being that like Starman has the Star Rod from the original Starman. Jack Knight used the Star Rod and along with Star Girl, but apparently that's one of these items that'll help in this war. And the rest of the Justice League has to go and grab them. In the meantime, the Legion of Doom, since they bugged the place with Starro, they know the whole deal of what's going on with this. So they're assembling as well. And since they already know, they go back 2 weeks before the Justice League will arrive in these different time streams. So they've already have an edge up on the Justice League. So we see I believe it's Mara, and Hawk Girl. Do they go and oh no, it's the Trinity are met with the Kamandi character. So they're in his timeline, and then the Flash and John Stewart Green Lantern are transported to their dimension, and it's full blast. It's the Justice Society of America. So, and I know in 31, which is out next week, we're gonna have the full reintroduction to the JSA back to mainline DCU. So that should be exciting. This is shaping up to be fun and what I want out of a Justice League book. This huge battle between the Justice League and the Legion of Doom for total control and the stake of the universe at hand. Though I do think though, like Avengers Endgame just came out, so Snyder, I see what you're doing here. Like going into these different time streams to grab these items. It's like, come on, you could have thought of something better.
Yeah, but obviously it's not like Avengers
No,
created plotline. Yeah, I was beyond excited to see the Justice Society show up. There's all kinds of questions there as far as continuity, and there's all kinds of potentially behind the scenes, like drama or shenanigans or back and forths with there's Bendis is going ahead with Legion stuff, Snyder's going ahead with JSA stuff, Doomsday Clock still like 18 months behind or whatever.
hey, Doomsday Clock number 11 out next week.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I still won't believe it until it's physically on a stand somewhere.
I love seeing Kamandi, but it actually would have. I know Bendis is doing Legion stuff, and it makes sense with Superman, and it would almost feel way overstuffed here. But Legion as the future timeline would actually make a ton of sense, especially with Starman as the conduit, because Starman has connections to the past and the future. Obviously, Starman Ted Knight, JSA, and Starman Tom Cowler / Starboy, Legion. So that's honestly, and I think I spoiled part of the issue for myself already. But I was like,
well, I spoiled it for you when I showed you that splash page.
that would have been a cool direction. Also, some people pointed out, I'm pretty sure Jericho is on both splash pages, the heroes and the villains page, in slightly different costumes. But I don't read Deathstroke, so it may make total sense, or it's an error, or everyone's misinterpreting it. Jorge Jimenez, he draws a few of these female characters, very very cute. His Supergirl and his Black Canary look really great.
I wonder why Ted Ford is just wearing a T-shirt.
Yeah, but it was cool seeing like basically him and Guy.
Yeah, that was cool. Damian is now a member of the Justice League. Whatever.
Well, I don't count these kinds of scenes. Everyone Justice League, so when they do these, no one actually counts.
Did you notice like Kyle Rayner's all the way in the back? You can just make him out floating back there.
Well, they have to show a few characters floating. Also, look, I get it. Obviously, no one is George Perez, but these like every character, the splash pages in these issues, there are a lot of characters there, but there really aren't.
No,
You could
like 14 characters.
Yeah, it's not that much. Also, the other thing you didn't touch on is that there's like part of this info dump section where they explain that every character's powers and origin are tied to the structure of the multiverse. Aquaman represents life as is the font of that, and Martian Manhunter, the underlying consciousness of all the multiverse, and like the power of the gods and the emotional spectrum creates feeling in the world, and the villains are like tied to the matching dark forces inverse of those, and it's high concept mumbo jumbo stuff, which I actually find kind of fun, but I just hate these kinds of premises, like the every hero destiny, every hero connected to the fabric of the multiverse. One of my major pet peeves in like major superhero comics, but it doesn't. At least so far, it's not like infecting the beat to beat story much.
Yeah.
All right, we got two more books closing it out. Thor number 16. We decided to jump in this. We read War of the Realms. This is the final issue of Jason Aaron's run on Thor. Not really.
Not really, because King Thor happens.
Yeah. By the time King Thor ends, I believe, because I think it's like 4 issues, so he will have exactly a 7-year run on Thor.
Right.
Which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
Actually, I might go back. That might be the longest run on Thor. I don't think maybe Stan Lee did 7 years.
I know JMS didn't do 7 years.
definitely not.
Like a year.
Yeah, it's probably the longest run on Thor. But so Thor's supposed to be attending the coronation for him as the new Allfather / King of Asgard, but
Right.
procrastinating and distracting himself. He helps rebuild a church in Mississippi, delivers a transplant organ in Australia. He feeds. Well, he actually does show up to the coronation, but I guess using super speed and stuff or stealth, he takes away most of the food and takes it to feed the Dark Elves who are suffering after War of the Realms. And in the not Thor scenes, we basically check in on all the Asgardian characters and status quo, and other like strongly related characters. Like we see, he's really just on one panel, but we see Hercules, which is cool. I thought Black Panther's inclusion, like I didn't fully understand that, and I didn't think that was fully necessary. It's kind of weird thing where it's like, okay, there's more political connection between Asgard and Earth, and Black Panther's the representative for some reason.
I liked Loki showing up and restoring Tooth Gnasher.
Yeah, that was cool. And then, like the stuff with Odin, I'm not really clear on because it suggested he's going mad, but then like 4 pages
Yeah, he's getting old. I think it's with the fallout. I think it's him getting older and approaching like the days where he will die, but also like with what he went through in the War of the Realms, I think he kind of has whatever a Norse god can have experienced in Alzheimer's. I think Odin's getting that.
And there's just a tiny bit of political commentary in this issue, which I think was handled fine, all things considered. What I expect out of a Marvel
between King Thor and Young Thor is then Young Thor goes back to his timeline and kind of glances at Mjolnir and he goes, "You can wait." And he's going to go off and have other adventures.
Yeah. Whereas old Thor, King Thor, gets attacked by a symbiote Loki.
I think it's just like cosmic black hole Loki. We'll see what happens.
I think it might be symbiote related.
Because he's holding the ebony blade, and that was a weapon that was used during War of the Realms.
Yeah. I thought this was, we're taking this slightly out of context, but I thought this was a decent issue overall. I was pretty negative. I think the only other issue of this series I read was the very first one, and I was actually relatively negative on that in a few points. But this one was fine to me. It's a pretty good send off, even though it's not a send off. I don't think I'm going to read King Thor, but
I'm not.
I might read the final issue because it's the actual final Aaron issue.
I thought like this. I like the idea though of Thor like not attending his coronation as he's continually trying to make be worthy of his status as he's just on Midgard performing great feats to help others. I like that idea. I like the moments with Odin and Freya though, like knowing that all right, their son's not going to attend, but they know he's grown up and he's wise and he's going to do good. Especially with, I think Jason Aaron's played with the father dynamic with Odin in his run, from what I understand, and some of the stuff I've seen. So Odin having the moment where he's pretty much come to peace with what Thor has become, and now even saying the line like, when they look back through my life and centuries, people are going to say the best thing I ever did was fathered Thor. I like that idea too.
Yeah, and so especially because of some of the War of the Realm stuff and the potential that maybe this Loki thing is symbiote related, and some like Twitter comments and stuff, I'm putting my money on Donny Cates' Thor. And I think actually,
down for it, but that man is writing a lot of comic books right now.
Here's the thing. I think there might be a good chance that he leaves Venom. As much as Venom fans current Venom fans will probably hate that, and Marvel probably won't necessarily like that. At that point, he'll have he may get to around 25 or 30 issues of Venom, and so decent size run on Venom.
He's been outspoken that Venom is his favorite character, though. Would you be able to pull him away?
Well, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. But I think Donny Cates is the safe bet on Thor.
Which I'd welcome it. I like Donny Cates a lot. I think he could do some really fun out there cosmic stuff with Thor that I don't think Jason Aaron really got too far to cosmic kind of Jack Kirby esque ideas with Thor. I think it pretty much stayed within the ideas of the Norse gods and realms, which I would welcome that idea of a cosmic Thor again.
Well, the other part of the Donny Cates equation is that we do actually know that Donny Cates has something else announced soon. He has that, and so I think it's probably Thor. The other options are Moon Knight and what was the other? Maybe. I think. What was it? I think there's a She-Hulk thing.
I don't see him on She-Hulk.
Yeah, Cates could probably do Moon Knight totally fine.
What do you think is next for Jason Aaron?
I don't know. That's a good question. Honestly, I could see him. I mean, he'll probably write Avengers for another 50, 60 issues or whatever. But I could see him putting a little bit more focus on his indie stuff because he's kind of put that in the back corner for a bit. Oh, okay, yeah. So allegedly, Marvel has some stuff. They're teasing stuff for Black Knight and Moon Knight around December. And I can't really see a Donny Cates Black Knight book. I could see a Moon Knight.
I can't. At this point, I can see Donny Cates on a lot of things, and Black Knight would be something I can see him on.
But he would fit on Moon Knight, but he's like one of their hottest writers right now, and so I could see them totally putting him on Thor. And the other thing is, I don't within the Marvel stable, unless they pull someone like really unexpected, I don't know that anyone else is big enough for Thor / fits well on Thor. Like I don't know that I see, say Rosenberg, Thompson, Brisson, that kind of crew, and like Jerry Duggan, Cullen Bunn. I don't know that that's as exciting.
Cullen Bunn could do a fun Thor run, but I don't think it would last 7 years. But then again, we don't get 7-year runs anymore.
Yeah, but finale of Aaron Thor, even though it's not, and very exciting to see what happens next since it's been 7 years. And we'll close out the show with Tommy Gun Wizards #1. This is a Dark Horse issue, writing by Christian Ward, who is mostly known as an artist. I really love his art. This is probably the first sizable thing he's written.
His page on Eternity in Marvel Comics 1000 was great.
Yeah. The art here is by Sammy Cavella, who I don't think I've ever heard of. This is set in 1930s Chicago, Prohibition era. The main character is Elliot Ness, and Al Capone is in this. It's about prohibition and organized crime, but what's prohibited is magic, not alcohol. But it's both because there's some kind of thing called lick, which is like some kind of drug or liquid, which allows people to tap into magic elements. So I don't really get it. Like I feel like there wasn't enough set up saying how this world works, and Elliot Ness leads a task force. There's like a vomit monster at some point, and they learn that the lick is distributed through a church, and Ness might have some shit going on, like he might be a magic user as well. That's the potential tease at the end. I thought the art was actually really good, even though I was kind of hoping this would be a Christian Ward top to bottom gig. That would have been interesting, but the art was really good regardless. I get the appeal of the premise. It is somewhat original, and I like it, but I think there were kind of pacing issues and lacking exposition where the world didn't feel fully developed for me. And that's our show. And next week, we're going to be reading a comic from Marvel from July 1994. So very
No Spider-Man, no Spider-Man, no Spider-Man.
Well, this is actually pre-Clone Saga, so
Swiping.
Spider-Man would still be dicey, but it wouldn't be as bad as it could be, perhaps. Let's see. Ooh, one possibility, Dan, would be Force Works #1
Ooh.
or
You know, it means that Vince isn't going to pick that.
or Galactic Guardians #1.
I've actually read. I think I read both of those.
Yeah. You know what? Because I meant to partially, figure this out earlier. So I'm pulling up a few options, and I'm gonna let you two decide. So we could read Blade #1 by Ian Edgington and Doug Wheatley. We could read you know what? We're gonna read Iron Man 306.
Nice.
You went from, oh, we could read this. You guys choose to. No, we're just going to read this.
All right, so Iron Man 306. That's what we're reading next week. Thanks for watching this episode, and tune in next time. Bye
Take
bye.
care and get home safe.
Yes.